Now what I want to do is I want to tie, instead of that just being an arbitrary 45 degrees, I want to tie it to the equation that I created, and I mentioned that earlier, where I've got this pitch angle established. And so what I'll do is I'll select on that last extrusion we made, which highlights the dimension, and that is because I have Instant 3 turned on, Instant 3D turned on. If I double mouse button on that dimension, it brings me into the Modify dialog box. And just like in Excel or other tools that we use with input, we can click on the equals button, and you can see the drop downs are available to us where we can specify something like the variable that I've created, pitch angle. And so no matter what that pitch angle is established from our pitch sketch, that will update the taper on our roof structure. So a little flash and dash, and you saw that kind of update. So for one, I like the visual of being able to understand where the ridges and the valleys are going to be. But what I really wanted to understand is, based on this floor plan, how much materials am I going to need to roof this? So I'm going to use another tool. It's found within our Evaluate toolbar, and it's called Measure. So within the Measure tool, this is a persistent box, and what is meant by that is, as we're doing different activities, this box is going to stay up and wait for us to make selections. So what I want to do here is I want to choose all the faces that were created by that roof extrusion with the taper, all these hipped faces. And what that's going to do is it's going to compute all of the square footage of those faces. It's going to calculate those together. And it brings me a reading of almost 6,500 square feet. If I wanted to change the units, I could simply choose that option, choose custom on whether I wanted those in feet and inches, or if I wanted those in meters. In this case, feet gives me exactly what I'm looking for. And again, almost about 6,500 square feet. So I should be expecting somewhere around 68 squares of material in order to roof this. I want to show you a little bit more about the Measure tool before I get out of here. Simply selecting out in white space will clear the selections. It's a very handy tool. That works for pretty much any of the SOLIDWORKS input boxes. Anytime we see this blue here, it lets us know it's waiting for an input. I could come over and I could select an edge, and it will give me the length of that specific edge. And again, it's reading out in feet because that's the units that I have set. If I wanted to set those back to, say, the document settings, which is in feet and inches, now we'll get those that read out in feet and inches. I've got this also set to eighths of an inch, and so it's going to round up to the nearest eighth of an inch. So whenever I select an edge, I get the length of that edge. If I were to select two edges, now I start getting information like they're perpendicular to one another, they do intersect at a point, and that total length is of both edges together is 66 and some change. Select out in white space using the left mouse button, clears the selection. I could choose an individual face. I can choose points where we want to specify, say from this point to this point, what's the distance? I realize it's the same the length of the ridge there, but we can see point to point, and we can even see point to point, say in 3D space, where we want to understand as the crow flies, deltas in X, Y, and Z, as well as the closest connection between those 2 points. The Measure tool is very helpful in understanding a lot of information about our models. If we select two faces that are parallel to one another, we'll get the parallel distance between those two faces. Lots more to come in other courses related to the Measure tool. So again, kind of recap this a little bit. Using draft as part of an extrusion is a very easy way to add draft angle to our model, but it is going to employ the same draft angle on all faces. So we can't control some faces to have one angle and then other faces to have other angles. We'll cover that in a few other use cases